Check these rose petals out. Gotta get more. Now, when I was younger, I found a scrap of paper in my dad's handwriting. It said, "When sowing your seeds, sow them with care. Sow one for the rook, one for the crow, one to die young, and one to grow." I can think about that for a bit. It took me a while to get it. Now I get it as a farmer. I also have the luxury of space, so I plant in consequence to these things. I know that certain plants will not reach maturity. I know that we do need to pay our taxes, so I plant in consequence of all this. And I also know that some pests are gonna get a portion of my crop. Now it's normal. It's always, we have cutworms. I just lost a hot pepper plant in my garden to a cutworm. There's also deer and all kinds of stuff. So it's normal. So I can plant in consequence to this because I have the space. I'm a larger farm, so I do this. Now, I don't want to be making this video. I didn't want to have to make this video, but the fact that I'm making this video indicates that I have a problem with one of those 4 things where it is swinging out of balance. And that is, obviously, you know the title. I am dealing with pests here, so I'm referring to the crow in that little poem. And we deal with pests in a variety of ways. For example, check out my hops up there. We grow hops for use in teas, not for brewing or anything like that, so whatever. It used to just grow on the wall. We established like a bed of hops here, and they're really aggressive growers. They take over, and it would grow up on this wall, and we would just harvest. But what I found is there wasn't a lot of air circulation, plus the fact that we were only harvesting on one surface. The rear was obviously the wall, so we weren't maximizing our yield there, but there wasn't a lot of air circulation, and these things would get attacked by a caterpillar, and it would just cover them and turn the leaves into lace. Now, I added these braces up here, and I strung it up, and we've put mulch to train the hops to grow in rows. So one, we can at least, I'd say, triple our yield here, because we'll be harvesting on both sides of each row. But also it has a lot of air circulation in there, and we can deal with the pests. I mean, the caterpillars are still gonna come anyway. They're still gonna be there, but we can deal with them a lot easier. They're not hidden within the plant. There's more air circulation. Also, natural predators like birds and whatnot, they will be able to get at this a lot easier. So I'm hoping this works. If this works, this is kind of a pilot project. If this works, well, I've got a much bigger wall in mind. So if that works out for yield, and also for to see if we can keep the caterpillar population down to a manageable size, I'll be looking at expanding here next year, and our hops, we're just gonna, I don't know, quadruple on top of the tripling. There's a lot of real estate here. So what's this all mean? Generally, I used to fight nature, like weather and pests and whatnot. I used to feel like it was a battle, a war, and that's just a frustrating road to go down. Lately, I don't know, maybe I'm lazy, maybe I'm just like getting older, but I kind of feel like if you kind of work together with these things, like I have no control over the weather. It's stupid to be fighting with it. Like, what am I gonna do? You just kind of plan in consequence of this. Like, I can plant in consequence of pests, like I said. For the weather, like last year we had a drought, and I had irrigation on my mind. Maybe that's something I'm gonna need to look into in the future. This year we don't have a problem with drought, so it's kind of less on my mind, but if it starts to happen more and more and more, well, then I'll deal with it. And that's where the pests come in. You know, like the weather, if it swings in one way and it seems to be permanently swinging in one way, it throws everything out of balance, and then we're not in balance anymore. So I take a more aggressive action instead of this like passive laissez-faire attitude, which is what we're here today for. There's a few things we're gonna do. First, I want to take you to my lemon balm because we got a real problem over there. So let's go check that out. Now, this is my old lemon balm plantation, and we are relocating it this year. It's been a few years, it hasn't been doing well, and especially this year. We thought, I don't know if you can see, I'll get in a little closer, but all the leaves are speckled and dotted, but you can't see any bugs. Usually when we have a bug problem, aphids or something, you just brush it up like that and you'll see the cloud swarm off, especially in such an aggressive case like this. And this damage happened overnight. Like this was beautiful patch, and then literally like the next day it was all browned and crisped. So we assumed it was temperature based, because back a few years ago we were getting cold nights and it was hot and so on. So we thought it was temperature based, and we thought it was disease based, but it doesn't really. It really looks like bug damage. We can never see any bugs, but we found the culprit this year, thanks to Jess. I'll see if I can find one, and I'll see if I can find one. Hold on. Can you see that? I don't know if it's coming out well. This is the four-lined plant bug. They prefer the mint family, and lemon balm is in the mint family, which is why we suspect it to be that bug. Now, that was very difficult to find. It took me a while actually to get that. The reason is they're very quick and very elusive. So when they see you coming, they just retreat down right into the canopy and oftentimes into the ground, which makes spraying ineffective, very ineffective. You could use like neem oil or stuff like that. Bugger. Yeah, see? But since these are all contact killers, you're not really going to get anything. What this bug does is it lays eggs once a year, and those eggs overwinter. At the base of the plant, the females will make a slit in the stem, and they'll deposit the eggs in that slit, and they'll overwinter, and late spring, early summer, those eggs hatch, and the damage happens like almost overnight. Within like 72 hours, your entire crop will be speckled and dried up like so. So for me, unusable. The reason why it seems to happen overnight is because the eggs hatch at the base, and the larvae travel upward, eating upward. So the top of the canopy is nice and green, but the inside's being eaten, and all of a sudden, it seems that everything's brown. Now that generation is the generation that's eating my plants now. And what they'll do is, it's very quick. I think it's within a month, the whole life cycle has passed. They'll deposit their eggs further up along the stem. And that's where I think my problem has been. I couldn't identify this bug because I couldn't see it. I thought it was to do with temperature, with cold, warm, I don't know. So when it got to this stage, when the bugs were feeding and not yet mating, I would mow this down, which I was going to, again, for my second pick. So I would mow it down, and that's where the problem was, because then the bugs had nowhere on the top to deposit their eggs, so they would deposit their eggs on the bottom again and overwinter. And that bottom layer, well, it wouldn't get mowed in because this is a perennial crop for me. And so then the next year I would just have more bugs, and then more and more and more. And finally now we're just overrun. So this year I'm going to have to delay my second harvest of lemon balm, because if I were to mow this now and expect a second growth, well, the bugs, they wouldn't be able to lay their eggs on the top of the plant, so they would again retreat to the bottom and lay on the bottom, which would again overwinter. And when those eggs hatch, and this is no longer a lemon balm patch, where do you think they're gonna go? They're gonna go right over there to find my mints and my new lemon balm, which are planted relatively close together. I don't want that to happen. And so the plan is I'm just going to leave this for a bit. The life cycle is short. They're feeding. I'm just gonna let them mate, let them do their thing. They're gonna deposit the eggs on the top of the plant, and then I'm gonna mow, destroy the tops. I'll get my second harvest in the late summer, and hopefully that will cut the population down to a manageable size. And in the spring, any stragglers that have managed to lay eggs and overwinter, well, late spring, early summer, I'm gonna net my mints and my lemon balm so that they don't travel by air. That's the plan. Now, I do have another issue with pests. It's less complex than this one. I'll explain why. Now, this is my Aztec marigold bed. And as you can see from this one and from this one over here, and from most of these, the tops have been cut clean off. And this one's a little more clear, but actually all the leaves and growing shoots have been removed, and then the top growing shoot is just clear gone. What's doing this? It's not a bug. This is not a bug. It's like, come on. At first I thought it was deer, but there's no footprints anywhere here. And deer tend to avoid this plant. They don't like it. They'll tolerate it, but they will not eat it. So my second thought was a groundhog, because we've had a lot of groundhogs lately. We've also had a lot of foxes. I got a fox roaming around here, so I was kind of hoping that would sort itself out. But as it turns out, this plant is toxic to groundhogs. So that's not our culprit. I'm pretty sure that this is a rabbit. I'm almost positive this is a rabbit. This bed has not been worked over much. It's very hard packed, and it poured rain last night, so there's no footprints. A rabbit is light. It seems, I don't know, this seems rabbit height-ish. I'm almost positive it's a rabbit, so we're gonna deal with that. Now, old googly eyes over here has treated us well over the years, and well, I like to think that he's effective. But for this pest, I think we're gonna go. I think we're gonna go in a different direction. Let's go do that. Now, I am well aware that there's a much easier way of getting rid of a rabbit. But if I was into the easy solution, I wouldn't be a friggin' farmer now, would I? I would have chose something a little more lucrative. This is how we're doing it. The fact that I smacked that and it didn't set it off is worrisome, but this should be fun. I'm gonna load this up. We're gonna let it sit, check it in the mornings, and see if we got ourselves a rabbit. Oh, how cute would that be? I'm gonna have to fix that first. So cliche. This was part of my second seeding of lettuce. So here's one for the crow. I feel mildly confident about that. Let's check this in the morning. Funny looking rabbit. Still pretty funny looking for a rabbit.